Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Higher Level podcast. As always, I'm joined by Higher Level head coach James Doolan, and our special guest this evening is UFC commentator John Gooden. John, how are you, sir?
Doing good. I'm now kind of looking over James' shoulder. I'm like, what is he reading there? There's a lot of material, isn't there? It's a little distracting, if I'm honest. Obviously, the pink gloves are yours, but there's some wonderful titles.
Good.
I've got like a few. Well, that's it. That's all I've read. That's all I've read my whole lifetime. Just that.
Well, behind you is what I've read in my lifetime. So I guess I'm losing. I'm the dumb one here.
Well, maybe this is like the stages. Goes from you to me to do.
Aye. Yeah. I'll start reading soon. John, how's things going? We're all every podcast. This is how we start asking about lockdown, but it feels like it's how we need to start everything now because it's kind of affecting everybody globally. I know you were unwell for a bit there, but out with that at the moment, how is things going?
Yeah, I mean, we have, good days, bad days, and it's just so weird. I said to my wife earlier, I'm like, the fuck is going on? This is such a bizarre situation. You go out and then you go for a walk with a baby and then someone comes walking at you and you're like, oh, fuck yeah, not really supposed to be walking towards you, and then shops and queuing and gloves and disinfecting things, and I don't know. It's really weird. There's all of that kind of day-to-day shit, and then for me, it's a very weird situation because my job. I spend a lot of time in this little room here. Let me take the lights out of it, and then I go from here to an airport to work. So actually, there's not a massive amount of difference in me sitting in my office watching fights and preparing for stuff. It's just no end product. The big difference at the moment, I have to say, is I'm sharing duties looking after the baby. She's 2 now. And I'm finding that super tough. Jesus Christ, that is tough.
I'm glad you said that, John.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
everyone here at the moment, we've spoke about this before. We spoke about this with Mark Goddard as well. I believe having young children during lockdown and not having kids during lockdown are 2 very different experiences. James has obviously got a young son and he's got the 2 dogs. I've got a 3-year-old and I've got my daughter. She's 10 months old. You've obviously got a young one, so it is certainly a challenge, isn't it?
Well, I look at all of these people that are watching all of these series on Netflix or whatever the fuck it is, and everyone's learnt a new language. Everyone's put on 10 pound of muscle, and I'm sitting there going, I'm getting fat as hell. I've not watched anything. I'm tired all the time. I'm stressed because I don't have a job anymore. And I'm like, y'all mustn't have kids. Or if you do, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. You're clearly not looking after them. Like, or you're not adhering to social distancing, and you've got someone in your home looking after your kids while you're off watching the box. So I don't know what's going on, but I don't know how everyone's cramming it in. Or it might be me being a pussy and I have to go to bed at like 10:30 in order to get up at, around the 7 o'clock mark.
Your experience sounds exactly the same as mine, to be honest, so I must be a pussy as well.
Well, I'm not going to lie, guys. I got unfurloughed on Monday and I'm back to work, so this has been my easiest week so far. And I'm not even kidding. It is very difficult with kids, especially young kids, because you can't explain to them. I don't know, I'm finding this with my son. Can't explain that you can't go outside, and you can't explain social distancing. It's a crazy world we live in at the moment, I guess.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I know that we are under the same jurisdiction. Obviously, England, Scotland. I honestly think that your politicians have a better handle on it than what's going on right now at number 10. Like, I just don't get it. Like, the messaging's so all over the place, and I don't know. It's just it causes me anxiety when I tune into it, and then so I completely back off from it all. And I don't know. I think I'm better off for not doing that and just staying indoors, going out when I have to, and that kind of stuff.
I'm at the point, and I think we've spoken at this before, JJ, I'm at the point now where I don't even want to read anything about it anymore, because you go from being, this isn't anything, to like really worried about it, and it's just like that you don't know what's true, what's not true. It's that although social media is awesome and it brings a lot of good things, the downside is there is a lot of shit on there and you don't know what to believe. And I guess that's the downside of social media and us being so interconnected with everybody in the world.
Yeah.
But highlight it. Actually, before I go on to the UFC, I want to ask you about your experience of feeling unwell. And the reason being is because before everything started, I get quite ill myself with something a bit weird. So I want to know how you felt when you were unwell. I know you suspect it may be COVID, but obviously you don't know. What was that like with you and your partner, especially having a young kid?
Yeah, it wasn't great. And again, just to double down on your point about like social media, and I guess just the idea that you might have something, and there are all of these stories shared, and it's obviously a serious condition. If I'd have had a lot of those symptoms and I hadn't have heard of COVID-19, I probably wouldn't have felt as bad as I did, because I don't typically look out for signs of my breathing, and because it affects the lungs, etc. I'd lie on my left side, and then I'd be like, right, I'm struggling a bit here, and that my chest sounds really noisy there, and I'll be moving on to the other side, and then you're looking for problems. So that was just on that side. The interesting thing is is it next week or is it this week? I think on Friday I'm going to see whether I've got the antibody. So there are 2 labs that have been kind of approved in the UK. So Roche is one and the Abbott's test is another. The Abbott's test is like 99.6 accurate. The Roche test is 100% accurate, but like I don't know how they get these figures. Anyway, they're all pretty good. So I'm going to go and get the test done on Friday. It's a blood test at a private clinic. It's costing me £100. But with the outlook of the UFC stuff, and I don't know, I feel like the right way to go in society is if they had some sort of traffic light system, and if you have an antibody, then it might put you further towards the green on a traffic light system. That's just my idea. That's certainly not anything I've heard via the government. But also going on a plane into an airport, if I feel like, listen, I know the antibody doesn't make you immune, but if I have a level of protection, I think just in myself, I'd feel a little bit safer. So getting that done, to answer your question, finally, it was a horrible time, and it started on a Sunday night, and the night sweats were brutal, like really bad. But it's not beyond. I wouldn't say it's normal for. It's certainly not normal for me to have night sweats. But sometimes when I get ill, that's one of the ways that my body manifests that it's struggling with something. I don't typically get ill a lot. That's why I'm saying it's not normal. But then I said to my wife, as I started to feel like really run down, properly tired, I said, I think this might be that coronavirus thing. And she kind of told me to F off. And she's like, just get over it. It's probably a bit of hay fever and you run down. And I said, look, I'm going to have to treat it like it is, because we've got you and Elodie in the house. I said, I don't really want this spreading. We were lucky enough last year, we put an extension on the house, and we got an ensuite bathroom. So we could literally just shut the door, and I'll just stay there. She can deliver me my meals like I'm in prison. And then I'll just be in there and just ride it out. So that's kind of what we did. And then the Monday night was really bad again. Tuesday night really bad. Like the sweats were the worst thing. Like the night fevers and stuff, just not. And then the fatigue. And I think on the Monday, like again, you think, right, I've got this time now. I'll read a book. I honestly, it sounds dramatic. I couldn't even read a book. Yeah. I just sat there like this, watching Last Chance U, which I quite enjoyed actually.
Love it.
And I think I smashed 2 seasons of that. So again, lying about what I said earlier, because they put me in that situation. I did crack out a couple of seasons on Netflix. And then I finally started to feel a bit better, but my chest did not recover for a while. So even when I started to feel a bit more like myself, the breathing, it felt like a secondary balloon. So I'd take a deep breath and then it would be like this other diffusion of air. It was just a bit of a noisy chest. And towards the end of that week, I'd be bringing stuff up. But the coughing, so there's the coughing, the fevers, never run a temperature.
Yeah.
Which was the interesting one for me, because everyone's saying they're getting tested. That was the main test, right?
Yeah.
If you've got COVID-19, you're running a temperature and everyone's pointing a gun at people, not a gun, but a thermometer through borders. And I'm thinking, if I've got this, at no point during my waking hours have I ever run a temperature. Not that I'm sitting there with a thermometer, but if I had the strength to go downstairs or whatever, I'd just take my temperature and it seemed to be okay. So that's what makes me doubt whether it was that. Plus, I didn't lose any smell or taste, which is one of the strains that got around the UK, certainly in my area. That's what a lot of people were suffering from. But yeah, my fitness took a massive hit. And yeah, I'm still sort of building myself back up from it now, I'd say.
Yeah, just a few of the things that you said. And the reason I ask as well is, I'm pretty sure I said to you a couple of times, James, that I was having really bad chest problems out of nowhere, and it was very tight, and it was almost like I was having to push myself to breathe. And the other thing as well, it was a cough I had. I was waking my wife up in the night because the cough was that bad, but I ended up going to hospital.
Oh shit!
But this was before really the COVID thing had hit. But what they checked me in hospital and they were like, we don't really know what's going on. So they put me in oxygen. My oxygen levels were down. So I ended up having to sit in and get a nebulizer. And since then, I've never had asthma or anything. I've kind of, walking distances was really hard because I couldn't breathe. But then I've had to keep an inhaler on me. More now out of paranoia than anything else. But once that, after obviously everything had come out, when I thought back to that, I was like, I wonder if that could have been something, but it is just me speculating in my own mind.
Have you guys listened to the podcast with Rogan and Dr. Rhonda Patrick?
I have. I've listened to it. It was, sorry, actually, that's a lie. I've listened to pieces of it in the car.
It was a worry about, she said something about being put on a ventilator actually damages your lungs.
Yeah, I think...
Oh, my God. Everyone seems to be put on a ventilator when they're struggling with symptoms.
Well, I think what they were saying was, when you're struggling for breath, basically, and you're ill, when they put you on the ventilator, basically your lungs don't need to work anymore. And what they were saying in New York, 80% of the people that went on a ventilator passed away, unfortunately. Something like that.
Brutal.
But again, we don't know. It's just it's a hot topic at the moment that we're all talking about, and hopefully in maybe 6 months this will be an afterthought. But who knows? But the other things were not the other things as well. It's not just the illness and that. Is like James is a gym owner, and it's all the effects they're having there as well, as we've spoke about many times in the show. Yeah. So
no, it's not good.
No. Fortunately, the UFC have managed to get back.
Yeah.
We've had some fights. Had some basically everything we would have wanted for the UFC. We've had some spectacular fights, great finishes, plenty of controversy. Surrounding, as always, judges, referees. Over the last few cards then, John, just what's been the standout moments for you?
Oh, now you got me. These are the ones that I've been staying up for as well, so they don't really come to mind. I should have had something down here. My recall on these things is terrible, isn't it? This is why I have to research.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Here's an easy way we'll do it. I'll tell you some of mine, and James can jump. Actually, James, you jump in. What's been yours?
Well, I'd say that the ones that are obviously popping in the news at the moment, like the whole Dominic Cruz situation was very. It was uncomfortable to see the post-mortem of that because I actually think that Keith Peterson. This particular situation aside, I think he is he is in my top three. If I was to fight and Keith Peterson was down to referee, I would be delighted with that.
Yeah.
So I've always held him in high regard, and Dominic Cruz, he really went in on him as well, and I'm like, oh my God, this doesn't seem like it's going to end well, and he's upset about it. And of course, now you rewatch it, And it's just unfortunate. But Dominic's never been one to hold back. If you've had Mark on in recent times since that fight, perhaps, Mark's been on the end of some of their thoughts as well, or Dominic's thoughts. Yep. So he's certainly not scared to speak his mind. And then obviously the Anthony Smith Glover fight, that was uncomfortable watching at times. And then the whole thing, should the corner have pulled him out? Should the referee have stopped it? Oh, I don't know, man. It's such a difficult one. And Anthony's coming out kind of absolving anyone else of blame, and it's just all on him. Yeah. So
it is difficult. I'm pretty sure the troll Keith Peterson account hasn't helped matters on Twitter. I'm sure
that's going to stay alive now, and as much as it has been funny and people have kind of indulged in that, like, he's obviously not on social media for a reason. Yep. So for that to happen is quite unfortunate.
Yeah, with regards to, I'll come over to you, James, especially with Anthony Smith stuff in a moment, but with the Dominic Cruz, where I've got an issue with what Dominic done is, if he had, it didn't look like he was winning any minute of that fight. I didn't see a way for him to turn that around. That's not to say he wouldn't have, but for him to say some of the things he did about Keith Peterson, who again I believe is a very, very good referee, that's almost stuff that can ruin that man's career, which I believe is maybe overstepping the mark, and I really didn't like. And I just felt like Dominic Cruz went somewhere that he maybe shouldn't have. Yeah, be unhappy about the ref stoppage, but to go down the route he went, I didn't think was a great move for Dom, to be honest.
It's pretty much it's like a personal attack on the guy's character when he's doing his job, and he is a very good referee. He's one of the refs. He doesn't get the share of the limelight the same as some of the other refs, and usually that means that the referees are good.
Yeah,
everybody can tell you bad referees in any sport, but he's certainly a very good referee. But I think the way Cruz went about it was almost like a personal attack, and the fact that Cruz works for the company as well, not just fights, but he works as an analyst and stuff as well. It just doesn't look good. It looks unprofessional, and he's going to have to be analysing fights and sitting cage side when Peterson's refereeing fights in the future and stuff. It was just a weird situation.
Yeah, I think there's one. I mean, you know this, James. The UFC, they're not UFC referees. They're referees that are enlisted by commissions. So there is a distinction there, which I don't think fans actually always understand. And I think, playing devil's advocate here, Dominic's just calling it as he sees it. And, if that's the way he feels, if they were the senses, if he smelt what he smelled, if that's the way he's going to go with it, then, that's the way he's going to go with it. He probably feels like he's been slighted, certainly not slighted because it's a massive dent in his career. But if someone's going to affect him, then, he's going to come back at something else. If he's genuine, but the thing is, if he genuinely believed that of him, then, and I don't know, maybe he has done this, he needed to lodge that with whoever the senior, the athletic commission official that was there, who was overseeing the whole thing. He should have raised that concern after the fight, maybe, or very shortly after, and then, if that's genuinely how he feels, which of course it must be. I can't imagine why he would make that up. So then I would be, if I was in his shoes, I'd be looking to see that one through.
Yeah, is that maybe the problem then, John? Just the way it all sort of came about. Maybe it would have been better for Dom to go down that route, because it almost
maybe he is. He might be. I actually don't know. I was saying at the start, because of the way I'm splitting my time at the moment, I'm really only doing Thursday, Fridays work because because we're splitting it with my wife. So it's difficult to kind of stay on top of all of the stories, even in these times, right? Because we've had 3 shows. It's been coming thick and fast. I've been trying to do a few things myself as well. So I don't know what the bottom line is for Cruz on how he's going forward with all of that. But yeah, it's just super unfortunate. Yeah. And I don't know. It's not what I would do, but it's Dominic is very individual in that way. And as we've seen before, he's never been shy in putting his opinions down about various different aspects of the sport, including judges and referees.
And I guess the other slight downside to this is it's almost overshadowed how fantastic Henry Cejudo looked. I mean, he looked outstanding in that fight. Obviously a much smaller man, but he looked great, and that guy is, out with all the cringy stuff and all that, when it boils down to that guy is an absolute outstanding fighter, and what he's achieved in the sport, and maybe that's all he's going to achieve if he actually retires. I don't believe he will. I think we may see him in there. Actually, do you think we'll see him back in there, John, or do you think that's it for Triple C?
You know what? It's a really interesting thing to examine, because you put yourself in his shoes. It was what, 11, I think he said, when he started competing heavily. That's a shift. Jesus. Not many people in the world know what it's like to prepare for the Olympics and then transition into mixed martial arts and work on your brand and do all of the other things that he does. Because one thing that we all learn in now that the landscape of mixed martial arts has developed, it has opened up a lot of different avenues for the athletes at the very top. So his schedule would have been punishing. And now he's found love, God bless him, and he wants to enjoy that sort of thing. And good luck to you. You know, hand on heart, I love that, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be on the road a little bit and try and fit everything in around my job. And there's stuff that has been highlighted recently that I've been missing out clearly. So for him to go down that route, yeah, good luck to you. And I do think that he probably means it, because he would have missed out on everything. He would have missed out on everything over there. And it's hard to keep giving those excuses. And he's been doing that for decades. Will we see him back at the same? I've said all of that. When you are that competitive and it has been that big a part of your life, I just can't see how he will just move away from having any sort of competitive interaction. And I would imagine that mixed martial arts, it's so difficult to replicate. I'd imagine it would be MMA that he would revisit.
Yeah, what do you think, James, on that? Do you think we'll see Cejudo again?
I'm not sure. I think that what John said pretty much covered it. He's been competing since he was 11. Olympic I think he was the youngest ever Olympic champion in wrestling.
Yeah, he was 18, wasn't he, or something like that?
Yeah, really young man. So it's like, how does he fill that gap? What's he going to fill that gap with? And that's a problem a lot of fighters have. That's why like a lot of fighters retire and go off the rails. And just you see them later on and they're a mess and stuff. I would love for him to retire on top, because it doesn't happen a lot in combat sports. Like there's very, very few fighters walk away for MMA or boxing or anything at the top of the game, financially secure. Their faculties are all intact. Too many of them stay about too long and go out with losses and health problems. So I would love to see them walk away. Just from a point of view, I think that's good when that happens, because it doesn't happen that often. But it's how does he fill that gap that competing is going to? He's like we were talking about the Michael Jordan documentary the other day. And he's one of the guys. He's just like a ultimate winner. And unless he's got something to fill that gap, hopefully it's like family stuff and whatever, or business. But if something there can keep him from kind of getting that itch again, then maybe he wouldn't come back. But at the same time, a part of me thinks it was a gimmick with him, where he's like, right, I'm done, I'll see you later. And then now he waits on Dana going back and offering him a new contract. Because when he retired, if you look over his shoulder, Dana White's face is absolutely, it's like you can tell he didn't know anything about it. And you're like, oh fuck, like my double weight champion has just walked away from the sport and opened up 2 divisions. So I don't know if it's maybe a smart ploy on his part, because he's still getting better. It's not like there's any indication of physical decline on his part. He's improving all the time. He's got an excellent team round about him now, and I can't really see any challenges for him right now in either of those divisions. So it would be interesting to see what happens. But I hope he's walked away from it on top of the sport, because it does not happen that much. the only guys you can think of that's maybe done it, Joe Kawasaki, walked away undefeated and stuff, and Mayweather, but you're never sure about him. But it would be good if he has, but I don't know.
It might even be a taste of a bit of everything. It might be, I'm at peace if I don't do this again, right now in that moment. I've achieved everything, blah, blah, blah. And I have got this other thing that I do want to go and indulge in, like my own personal life and marriage, kids, whatever. But at the same time, he's been quite vocal about the amount of money that he gets. So it kind of helps to say that. And it's like, well, I'm going to put it out there. It's like I can say no. So it's a good kind of business idea. But at the same time, I think I think maybe a hiatus. Why not like a McGregor style hiatus where he just picks and chooses a little bit? We'll see. But I think the lower weight. I think certainly the flyweight weight class benefited from the addition of him from a column inches standpoint, because he's not only just such a great athlete, he did have this persona as well, which in this day and age, like it or loathe it, if you don't have it, you're never going to resonate, because there are so many others in the sport now with crazy characters. Darren Till's Twitter, by the way, this lockdown period has been mental.
It's been great. He's went after aerial. He's going after journalists. Darren Till's just one of the guys. He's naturally funny.
He is.
Not forced. It's brilliant.
I've enjoyed spending time with him. The funny thing was, most of the time when we speak, it's all about the perils of social media, and he's always speaking badly about people that are always on it, blah blah blah. And then he's just leveraging it so well right now. I guess he's got not a lot else with the way that situation is over here in the UK. God bless him.
It's like somebody's took the parent restrictions off his social media. Somebody's fucking let him access everything. He just went full blown on it. His stuff's so funny. Like, there's a bunch of young kids in our gym, about 17, 18. We're in group chats and stuff, and it's just constant screenshots of Darren Till's Twitter.
but he's got that natural foot. See, almost like when Conor McGregor, especially early Conor McGregor, when he talks, it seems very natural. It's very off the cuff, and it is brilliant. Darren's very much like that.
Yeah, I think it's different. I don't think you would have seen it's self-deprecating. He's having a bit of fun. I think it's an obvious and an easy comparison with Conor. And as someone who's been lucky enough to interview both guys on a few different occasions, that there is a subtle difference. And I don't mean any disrespect to Darren when I say this, but Conor's just on he's super unique. That's unique. And his single-mindedness he's just a complete outlier. Yeah,
I mean that's you just need to look at Conor, what he's done, what he's made. He's definitely in a league of his own. And to jump back on Darren Till, I remember James, you told me, I think was Darren maybe 16? Was it Lanark he was fighting?
Yeah, we just actually found one of the guys that trained with just found a hard drive, and it's got Darren's first MMA fight on it. Actually, 16, and came up to Liverpool. Wow. He fought a guy from Dumbarton called Stephen McCready. So when we're allowed to actually move around again, I'm going to get the hard drive off this guy, and I'll be able to upload his fight. But you could tell at 16 he came up with his coach, super confident. He was the guy from Dumbarton that fought him stood up with him the whole time, and the two of them had a really good fight. But you could tell even then, much like when Conor was at Cage Warriors, like you could tell he was a wee bit special. So it was like a fight we thought we'd lost actually, and it turns out one of my mates has found it. So I'm looking forward to getting it, and we can find it up online and get a look at it.
Yeah, I remember speaking to Daz Morris, one of Bisping's coaches, and he said that he knew of him when he was a teenager. They said at 16 he was knocking out fully grown men. You know, he was a talent all the way from back then at that point. And yeah, Darren is just more accessible, I think. I've had a lot of conversations with Darren where he's like, I'd love for you to watch my early amateur fights and things like that. I think you'd really enjoy it. I just can't imagine Conor ever saying that to me. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'd like to feel like Darren's like a friend now, and it's just funny, man. It's just interesting seeing.
He's just very honest, I think.
Exactly.
You can see it when he tweets about, I'll fight anybody except Yoel Romero, and then
brilliant.
One day I think he'd been drinking, and he was like, I want to fight Yoel Romero, and then the next day was, I need to stay off the drink. And he was just like, fucking hell.
But here's the thing, he'd fucking fight Yoel Romero, no problem.
Yeah, he would.
But he always talks about how scared he is walking to the octagon, regardless of who it is. You know?
Yeah, it's one of those things, especially with those nerves and the fear. I mean, we've heard like one of the greatest of all time, GSP. It's something he spoke about quite openly about that fear. But that fear almost it seems to drive a lot of fighters as well.
But isn't it funny when you listen to someone like Justin Gaethje saying that they feel nothing, and then you start. People's brains are wired differently. I love this. I love the whole sports psychology stuff. It's only something that I've really, you know what it is, people like Conor that got me considering it. It's actually the role of being a commentator, which really made me like read books around it, stuff like that. But it really does interest me how some people will be total thrill seekers. Like I won't go on a roller coaster. Like, what's the fucking point? It's just going to make me feel unwell. Like, it will scare me. My stomach's going to be left like behind me. I've got no interest in that. I don't mind fighting someone though, and there will be fear around that as well. But a good nervousness. I just don't. But then for someone like Justin Gaethje to go, I fucking love this, but I don't get any nerves, and that worries me. I'm like, how the fuck can you not get nervous? Like, how can you not get nervous? That's mental. But there are genuinely people out there that have that wiring.
And I think as well, Justin has spoken in the past about how maybe not so much at the fight, but during his training, he's constantly telling himself his opponent's better than him, his opponent's working harder than him. And I've seen him speak like that, and I think that seems like something that seems to drive Justin. But
I think the thing with Justin is, he's already accepted the outcome that he might lose and get hurt. He's talked about this before, I'm willing to die in there and stuff like that. He accepts that. So, and for some people they can go into the fight almost with a calmness in their mind, because they've already made peace with the fact that could happen to them. Whereas some of the guys that are going there are so worried about getting hurt or embarrassed or losing the fight because they might lose money or losing their ranking or their win streak going and stuff like that. It can play on them in a different way, but Gaethje's got a special mindset, and there's some fighters like that. It's almost like he's made peace with the worst that can happen before it happens, and then he's so well prepared and versed and experienced that he can go in there and just be like, right, let's do it. And he's a special fighter.
But isn't that mad in itself that he's willing to die? He's willing to. Apparently, he's at peace with willing to die and lose it, and you're like, what the fuck, man? You'd have seen this, sorry, James, you'd have seen this even at Cage Warriors and stuff, even commentating amateur fights, some guys like who are not getting paid, but they've got that thing in them where they just will not give up. Like, you can see it in fighters. Going back to the Anthony Smith thing there, talking about how if his corner had thrown in the towel, he'd have sacked him and stuff like that. And like, when you see it at UFC level, you almost expect it because it's the best fighters in the world. Yeah. And they need, to a degree, they need that in them. But where I get shocked to that is when I go to a show in Glasgow and I see two amateur fighters or two novice pro guys fighting for £400 or £500 and they'll not give an inch to each other. They're smashing each other up. They're hot. You can see like they will just not give up at all. But James, surely that's something that's not necessarily trainable. So you need that. Those guys would have needed that. Is that not something that they're almost born with, or it developed very, very, very early on? Or can you bring that mentality?
I think most of that is it's there. It's just it's a very natural quality, I think. It can be developed to an extent, I think, but it needs to be there on a certain level to be developed. If it's not there at all, you can't teach somebody that. Like, even like, you can put them through under pressure in the gym and push them physically and mentally and stuff. But some people will just never have that attribute. And I think the best guys, it's just there from the start. And I don't know if it's linked to upbringings and stuff like that, because you see it with the guys coming out the poorer areas. We always, whenever we were fighting anybody who came from Northern Ireland, we knew they'd be mentally tough straight away. You knew they were coming to fight. And you see it with like a lot of the Russians and stuff like that as well. I think it's a lot of it is a nature versus nurture thing. I think a lot of it is just there.
Is this why sometimes we see fighters from certain parts of the world, especially cold climates or climate like Baltic places as well, they just seem to breed a different type of fighter? Dagestan springs to mind.
Well, you say that. Yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong, but then for the most part, Americans hold UFC belts, and
yep,
it's
the Brazilians,
and yeah. So, and I mean, there's the other side of it being like in very humid kind of jungle conditions and farming. Like Glover, for example, he's from a very poor town. I learned that he, just as a side note, I learned that at Christmas he would sometimes take a truckload of stuff like food and gifts and things into his village and just be like handing it out to people out the back of this truck, and it means so much to him to be able to do that. So I think there's almost a flip side. We're obviously in that generation, or within the generations, I should say. I won't put you all in my age category. We've seen the Rocky films, things like that, where it's, and the Cold War, etc. And it does make, and we're in touch with these people, sorry to keep going on, so they don't always pull a smile. But yeah, I don't know if it's quite that. I think battle is within people, and I also sometimes I listen to Dan Hardy, but our grandfathers were in a fucking war. Like they didn't turn over. Do you know what I mean? They're tough. So yeah, I don't know, but I do think the Chechen Dagestani thing is slightly different, just because combat in general is different. They don't look, or that is something they look to for as a job. Yeah. Whereas we might get a trade or go to university in order to work in an office. They're wrestling, and that's very much part of their makeup, and that's combat. And then Sambo as well, where you start hitting one another. So it's just more widespread that they love a scrap.
Yeah, absolutely.
A big thing with that as well. Remember, Yo Romero and Rogan, I think it was, talking about it was in Cuba. There were so many wrestlers in that room, and only the best wrestler in the room would get the 2 meals. And it's the same if you look at the wrestling rooms in Dagestan and stuff like that. There's maybe 100 guys at 70 kilo, and they're all elite level wrestlers. And only one of them could be the very best guy in that room. So when you take like Khabib, for example, how many other guys at that weight class in his country has he had to come through before he gets to facing an international level competitions? There's so many people vying for that space. Whereas if you look at some of the other countries, like there's probably only 20 wrestlers in Scotland across all weight classes, which is why they never do anything at international competitions and stuff.
Yeah.
They tend to do better at boxing. And even still, participation numbers in these sports are going down and down. So when you look at the countries, there's so many people involved. And so if you're the best guy nationally for your country, you're going to have when the competition to be that number one in the country so high, you're going to have a bit of an advantage over most of these other countries straight away.
Yeah, 100%. And just, I don't know if you guys caught up on that article that they said about Khabib. Who was it that was, when Tony said that he didn't know about a street fight, an article came out, and because Khabib was so, it's just excellent as an athlete, if you like, that transcends athlete status into society in Dagestan. And whenever there was a problem, they'd always call on Habib. Habib would then step up as the hard man to take care of problems. So he would always be the one. So even, okay, on the wrestling mat, he's having to do his thing, but actually he's also having to go and deal with problems for his group, his circle. They're always pushing him. He's our guy. And but the other gang have their guy and just scrapping the whole time. And aside from the war and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're right, James. We don't have that. We just don't have that infrastructure that really breeds it. It's not in a school system, in a curriculum of any notability. So yeah, it's just not going to be the same as it is over there. And I didn't know this, but that whole master of thing that you hear commentators talking about in Russia, you typically need to have had about 70 odd amateur contests to start getting close to that master of status, and then and that's without being a champion, I think. Yeah. So that's an awful lot of runouts. I still boast about my few boxing matches. Like 70. Jesus Christ alive. Like how many before you want to start going pro and earning a few quid? Crazy.
Because who did we we had the opportunity to speak to Travis Fulton a few days ago, last week rather, and he said like 351 MMA fights, and I don't know, have you looked at him before, John, or his record? Some of the dudes he has fought, man, and he's actually got a good record, but he's like 351 MMA fights, 75 boxing fights.
Someone did a recent article in him. I think there was a pretty good article that came out on him recently. Pretty sure I read, and I was going back through it, and it wasn't long ago. Some of the people that he'd fought.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear somebody's got 351 MMA fights, and this is me being a bit ignorant, I automatically go, fuck, who's he fought?
Yeah, no, of course, and I think that's right to assume that.
And when you start looking through them, like, okay, Andrei Arlovsky, Ben Rothwell, I'm like, Jesus, this guy has fought fucking legit dudes, and he's beat some good guys too. It's insane, and still fighting, and now looking to do a bare knuckle. What the fuck?
Yes, definitely was the right article. Yeah, check it out. I can't remember who did it. Maybe The Athletic, possibly, something like that, or Vice. I'm not sure.
Now, John, back to you as well. What's going on with you at the moment? What's happening, obviously?
Not a lot.
We're seeing the UFC, obviously, and I feel this for European fighters as well, and Leon Edwards, I feel, has had the sharp end of the stick quite a few times now. We're obviously seeing we've got the UFC putting on shows in Jacksonville. We've heard talk of Fight Ireland. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't think anyone does. Where do you stand in things? Have you had any contact, or...?
I'm starting to get some more contact. There seems to be a little bit more movement on my part. Yeah, if I'm honest, like, I was starting to feel pretty down. At first, I was accepting of the situation and trying to be positive, but my wife got made redundant she had a senior job at MTV. That was happening as lockdown was going on. It wasn't tied to the pandemic, but it just so happened at the end of April, that was it. She was done. So now she's panicking that she hasn't got a job because she's got a career of her own. And I'm sitting here going, okay, what am I going to do? And I've said this I feel like I'm talking about myself a lot at the moment on podcasts. I don't know why everyone wants to speak to me, but it brought out quite a few different challenges that I'd been going over in my own mind, just with my position with the UFC, going from UK MMA to then being thrust to this position with the biggest fight organisation in the world. It was sort of it came around pretty quick. But with that, I suddenly assumed that with it would come all of these other opportunities for maybe other sports and working on BT Sport or whatever it might have been, and that never has materialised. And so this is all I've got. And before I used to worry about that, and it's not. So what I've realised is it is enough for me, as in to satisfy me.
Yeah.
But it's not the greatest business decision. And now we're in this kind of climate. It's like, well, how am I going to earn any money now? And I don't really want to be like, I can't take a job if the UFC is about to come back. I can't just take a job and like not have that because of, it just wouldn't work out. So it's a bit painful sitting here waiting. I've had no promises of the UFC yet. I've done one inside the octagon with Dan. We did a couple of look backs at bygone cards. We did UFC 38 and Dan's debut at 89. And it was fun. You know, it's fun to be doing something under sort of figuratively holding a UFC microphone. But apparently I'm in the rota if Fight Island does happen. So I know as much as everyone else, but I can truly say I believe it is a thing. I don't know where it is. I don't know when it might be coming back. I'm hoping it will come back soon though, because as I say, I'm probably a few days away from having to fire the CV out the door, and it won't be broadcasting because no one's doing that. So. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a really tricky one.
Back on the tools?
Well, yes. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it was my dad's company that I worked with before, and I wouldn't have gone on the tools if it wasn't for my dad. So that brings up its own kind of arguments. And then I did leave my dad, and he sort of still needs someone like me because of the way that I did all the exams and stuff like that. But now he's got his own guys that he needs to look after. And I'm now going, hey, I'm your son over here and I need some work. Even I feel like that's not really fair on everyone else. Plus, he thinks that I'm being a little bit over the top with the way I'm approaching social distancing. I am trying to follow guidelines, and you just can't when you work on building sites. As much as, I mean, what they've done is that you can't do it. You can't. I'm sorry, you can't do it. You might be able to do it in very few huge building sites that are going on, HS1 or 2, whatever it is. But when you're doing house bashing, I'm sorry, you can't stick to the rules.
No.
So I think he's a little bit hesitant of having me on board because of that as well. But yeah, so I don't know. Even that's not a given.
It just highlights how difficult a time it is for everyone. And one other thing I think it highlights as well is, as you'll probably know very well, John, MMA for fighters is very, very difficult to make a living in. So if you're wanting to go into broadcasting or you're wanting to go into the media, if you're going in there, it's so difficult to make a living. I've kind of I'm not a journalist, nothing like that. I've kind of dipped my toes in MMA and covering fights and stuff like that. And it actually cost me money to do that, so it's very difficult.
It cost me money for like all the time. Essentially, all the time I was working with Cage Warriors. You know, I didn't earn from that. But if I'm honest, I wasn't looking to earn from it. I never thought that the UFC gig would be there. When we started doing like big McGregor fights, like the New Year's shows and things like that, I started to think, wouldn't it be lovely if? Wouldn't that be something? But did I seriously think that? I honestly didn't. And I'll tell you why. Because I called up someone who had gone from Cage Warriors and was working in the office at the UFC, and I called them and said, is there anything I can do in the office? Like, I would happily work. I just want to work in the business. And in the back of my mind, I was there, well, you know, if anything comes up commentary-wise, I'd hear about it maybe quicker than someone else, and I can throw my hat in. But I got offered a job to be the liaison, sort of the UFC guy for the EA Sports game. So I was going to work for the UFC as the EA Sports representative, if you like, and the intermediary, the sort of conduit between the two organisations. The paperwork never came, I might add, and I was lucky that I never actually handed my notice in because it didn't come to fruition. But they were my first conversations with the UFC. And so just to echo your point, no UFC for me, the way I see it, and I might be wrong now, but if I'm not broadcasting for the UFC, I don't feel like I'm a full-time broadcaster. I don't know where I would go.
It's just, but then again, something you said there resonated with me. It sounded like you weren't doing it to make money there. No. You're doing it because you love the sport. And I think if you're doing it for any other reason than that, you're going to struggle. And it kind of moves me on to my next point I wanted to bring up. You put a post up on Instagram. I obviously messaged you about this. And it was about people who wanted to get into commentary, doing interviews and stuff like that. And you wanted to give something back and offer a bit of help. Can you tell us a wee bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I get messages every week. How did you do it? You know, how do I do it? Please, can you listen to this? Please, can you watch that and give me some feedback? And it's hard. I get frustrated because I'd love to help everyone. But at the same time, it's like I've got to also do my own work and be with my own family. And until recently, I didn't have that time is pretty precious. But also, this goes back a while. I've been helped by other people and I would like to help others. I also have never saw a course where I could try and just take on other people's thoughts on how I could become better at what I did. Everything I've done in my journey has been very much like how I approach martial arts. That's how I got into this, and I'm so involved with a team and MMA that my approach to a fight card is very similar, just in a study capacity. I just started thinking about stuff like that, and a few people have come to me about mentorship and motivational speaking. I've done some talks at schools. I've been involved in like round table discussions, things of that nature. And I've enjoyed it, and people have said to me that that's something that I should double down on. And now it just seems like a good time. There is space in the calendar. I do need to earn a few extra coins here and there. I feel like I've done over 10 years of this now. So I have good experience to offer. And a lot of this stuff goes back even further than those 10 years. Having ambition to do something, studying to do something, trying to learn. Like I was doing TV presenter courses in my early 20s, which is 20 years ago. And then I was doing interview training when I was working in the city after a graduate. Loads of interview courses because I'd be interviewing 3 or 5 professionals a day sometimes. So I've done so much training around these areas, which have really helped me become the broadcaster that I am today. So I think it's a good time. It just seems right. It would help me out. A lot of people do this Patreon thing. I don't know. I don't get like loads of hits on any of the stuff that I do. I don't market it well enough. I know that. So this is like my equivalent in a way. Yeah. So I just need, it's taking me a long time to build it because anything I do has to be right. I've got to be proud of it. So, I'm putting a lot of like a curriculum together, and then I'll just put it out there, and it can just live there, and I can update it, every year or whatever.
No, that's awesome, John. Certainly, let us know when it's coming out. I'll definitely get involved in that. I'm always looking to get a wee bit better myself. But look, we won't take up too much more of your time. I appreciate you coming on.
It's cool to chat.
It's been fun to chat and obviously get some of your views and experiences in the last couple of months. It's been interesting for us all. James, just before we finish up, are you getting you want to jump in with at this juncture?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything. It was interesting listening to John speak. Coming up and for his side of the sport and stuff, it's really similar to the fighters and the coaches and everybody else in the sport. Like you're not going to make money coming up. It sounds like he's in the exact same situation as Danny and Stevie right now, just waiting. They're in the rotation. We don't know what's happening. Just stay fit and be ready to come to Fight Island if it happens. It's the parallels there for all the staff is crazy. So hopefully the Fight Island thing happens, man, and I can see you there. Like we always catch up at shows. I spent some time in Singapore there when Stevie was over and stuff. So hopefully we can catch up and get a coffee when Fight Island comes about.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's and what an experience. It's yeah, like I don't know where it is, and if it's an octagon on a beach, it sounds like it would be nice weather, right? And
yeah.
And I've had some pretty mad experiences in mixed martial arts, particularly with Cage Warriors, I would say, just because I felt like, and that's not this, and I mean this in like the most, what's the way to say this? But it was such a beautiful time because it was like everyone was pulling in the same direction. The only stuff I didn't like was the infighting with like BAMMA and UCMMA and all that kind of stuff. It was never asked of me to get involved in that, so I didn't. I just think we're a small group of islands, and we just don't need to be really indulging in all of that stuff. But listen, that's everyone else's prerogative. I just loved that group of people, like I do with the UFC guys. And I was speaking for the first time or messaging with one of my producers, and he said to me, I'm not too man enough to say I miss you and Dan, man. I can't wait to see you. And I'm like, and I miss these people. And I think Cage Warriors was such a unique bunch. Graham, he's a Marmite character, but what he was very, very good at, by chance, I can't say it was by chance because it can't be. He pulled together some very, very good people, and I'll take myself out of that. But the people he had behind the scenes, working just for the love of everything. And it just meant when we all went away to Chechnya or, where else did we go? All around the Middle East and stuff. It was just bonkers, the routes to get there, some of the stuff you were up against. But the stories, man, I wish my memory was just better. As you guys have already seen, like, I'm having to have conversations with people to stir those memories, and it just warms my heart. So I love this sport. One thing this whole period of time has given me is to refocus my mind and stop worrying about whether or not I should be getting my knowledge in football or triathlon, Ironman, or fucking F1. I like those sports as well, don't get me wrong, but like I should be just, I'm all in on this. I was always all in on this, and it's reconfigured and calibrated myself to say, okay, I got into this to call MMA fights, not to do the fucking Olympics or something like that, and that's enough for me. And I'm very lucky to have made a living. The thing in the back of my mind, James, like you were just saying, is if that UFC relationship goes away, it's like, shit, now can you make a living in MMA? But I still loved it even when I didn't, so I'm sure that'll be the case in the future if indeed that happens.
Well, listen, on a positive note, I think at some point everything will get back to how it was. You and Dan, honestly, you have got a very good chemistry. You can obviously see your heart's in it, John, and I look forward to seeing you and Dan call on fights again, which I'm sure we'll definitely see in the future.
Fingers crossed.
But just thank you very much for coming on the show, John. We really appreciate the time, and obviously look forward to seeing you back in there calling fights.
Absolutely. Best of luck to all you guys. I know James running a gym, like my coach, I speak to him every other day. It's a struggle for everyone. It really is. And as much as I've been, sitting here pouring my heart out, I'm very, very aware that it's different for athletes.
Yeah.
And those guys on the up, particularly, super tough because they're losing time here and sponsorship, all of that stuff. You don't need me to illustrate all of that stuff. So just to put it out there to your team, UK MMA as well, European fighters, sympathise, everyone stay positive, go to your leaders like James, your coaches, and take the advice. And James, I wish you all the strength as well, because I know what it's like to be the leader of a team. And it's tough for people like you right now because you can't do what you do to keep these guys on the straight and narrow. So it's important work. And I hope you get back to it soon.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Nice one. Cheers, gents.